Shalom Aleichem. Holy cow. Not really. Not really a holy cow, but something related. Imagine a firefighter running into a building. He doesn't stop to think, what's in this for me? He knows the risk. He knows the smoke will sting his eyes. His clothes will be covered in soot. It will be unbearable. He might even risk his life. But he knows that someone needs him. And that's the story. The Para Aduma, the red heifer. Sometimes purification, purifying others, helping others, comes at a cost. In this week's Torah portion is Vayakhel, where we learn all about the Mishkan, the building of the Mishkan. But we also read a special portion called Parshat Para, at the end of the Torah reading. Para is in preparation for the times of the Holy Temple, when anyone who would have to bring a Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, would have to be pure. And they could only bring it if they were impure. When they were purified by the ashes of the Para Aduma, the red cow or the red heifer. And that's why we read it today. Today we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, Holy Temple, but we read this portion as a reminder. Pesach is not just about physical preparation, cleaning our homes, changing our diets, but also spiritual preparation, purifying ourselves, elevating ourselves to experience a true inner redemption. And the Para Aduma teaches us also that purification is possible even from the deepest depths of impurity, just like Pesach. No matter how distant spiritually one may feel, true freedom and renewal are always within reach, always possible. Pesach and Para Aduma and the red cow carry the same message. No one is too far gone for redemption. The Rebbe taught that a lot, that leaving Egypt wasn't just a historical event, but it is a personal journey. Mitzrayim, Egypt, means borders and limitations. Each of us has our own borders and limitations, doubts and fears, internal Mitzrayim, the habits that hold us back from being the best we can. And Pesach is freedom, frees us from our habits. We can break free and start fresh. Now, back to our Para Aduma. Have you ever faced something in your life that totally didn't make sense? Maybe a loss that left you broken, a challenge that left you completely unfair, that was seemingly unfair. King Solomon was the wisest of all men, and he struggled with one mitzvah. He cracked them all. He cracked the code. He struggled with one, and this was the one, the Para Aduma. What was so special, so unique about this one? We have many mitzvahs that we don't understand, many decrees. What's different, unique about this one? What is unique about this one is that the Para Aduma has something contradictory, a paradox. We'll say hello just for a moment. A surprise guest on the running commentary. It's the queen, the new queen of Cleveland. Anyway, we'll get back to our story here. So the Para Aduma, this has a paradoxical element in it, where it contaminates those who help, those who purify the others. When Kohen, the priest, purifies another person with the ashes, they become impure. And this is the paradox that left King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, at a loss. But, believe it or not, Chassidus takes it a little deeper. At a pshat level, it's hard to understand. Chassidus reveals a psychological truth that illuminates this idea that true purification or healing of others requires us stepping in to someone else's mess. A Kohen needs to take on the impurity of someone else whom he wants to heal. Empathy, true empathy, isn't from a distance. It's stepping into the struggle, walking through the pain of another together with him. The Parah Adumah is not just a ritual, a mitzvah, but it's a model of healing and how we can uplift others. Sometimes life gives us questions that we cannot answer, and the Rebbe taught us not to rationalize and to try to figure things out, but to transform that energy into action. When something makes no sense, we still have a choice. We could remain stuck in the why, or like the Rebbe says, you could say, what now? What do I do now? The Rebbe always said, transform negative energy into positive action. They say, no good deed goes unpunished. It's not a Jewish saying. But the Kohen who purified others became impure himself. But in our tradition, it's not a punishment. It's a responsibility, and perhaps not only an obligation, but also a privilege. True kindness isn't about what we get in return. It's about stepping up even when it costs us something. The Rebbe would often say that a leader is someone who stays above the struggles of the people. Who doesn't stay above the struggles of the people, but he enters into them, like the Kohen, who doesn't supervise the Parah Adumah process from a distance, but he takes on the impurity himself. He becomes impure, and he would have to go through a whole process of purification, including going to the mikveh afterwards. That's what leaders do. That's what parents do. That's what teachers do. That's what friends do when someone is struggling. You don't just help them from afar. You sit in the dust, carry part of their burden. And that's the paradox of the Parah Adumah that's explained well through the lens of Chassidus. I once visited a friend who had just lost a loved one, and I came prepared with words of comfort. But the moment I walked in, I realized that words wouldn't help. So I just sat there. After a long silence, he looked up and said, "Thank you." I didn't say a word. Sometimes presence speaks louder than explanations. And that's why, parenthetically, Jewish law tells us not to greet a mourner until they speak first. Because pain doesn't always need to be answered. It needs to be acknowledged, recognized with empathy. And that's what the Kohen would do in this Parah Adumah story. He would absorb some of the impurity so the other can become whole again. And that's the story of the Parah Adumah. And that's the model of what it means to help others. So it's not about what do I gain by helping someone else. It's not about feeling good, although you do feel good and you do gain. It's all about responsibility. So if we can summarize it, helping others isn't transactional, it's transformational. The Kohen, a friend, takes on the pain and the impurity of others, because that's the only way to deeply purify others. A Kohen does it because a Kohen means a servant. He serves, he heals, and he uplifts. And so do we. That's it for today. Holy cow. I'm just going to throw it parenthetically. Holy cow. Where does it come from? There are various opinions about this. Some say it's from the Hindu rituals, or not rituals, but understanding that the cow is holy, which I experienced myself. I was in Nepal a few years for Pesach, 2 years. I spent Pesach in Nepal. The cows were roaming the streets. They were untouchable. They were considered holy. Shalom, shalom. And moving on, today the term holy cow became a cultural reference for a time when you're very excited or astonished or shocked. And some say it might be in exchange for saying holy God or something different that might be considered sacrilegious. So to mundanify the expression, they use the cow. So today it's not a holy cow, but if we think about it, the Para Aduma, this red cow, may have been the holiest cow in our tradition that brings purification to others. That's the story. I'm back here in Kane Park. It worked well once. It's working okay now, I think. We'll find out. And I think we're ready to go. Here's Sarah. She's ready. She's somewhere up there. Take care. Have a great Shabbos.